Whether you're a GC rider like Tadej Pogacar or a sprinter like Tim Merlier, who won today's stage 7 at the Tour de France, you can be sure one of the words all of these guys heard in the radio today from their directors was focus. Guys, stay focused when the pace is slow. Get focused for the sprint. Find your teammates. Focus now. We're into the final 500 meters. The word gets thrown a lot, but these directors and coaches, well, we really talk about how we focus. So to do that, I'm going to break down focus a little more. And this is very connected to mindfulness, which we talked about a few stages ago at the beginning of the race, and that AAA framework of awareness, acceptance, and then aiming attention or focus. And to do this, we're going to use Robert Nideffer's model of attentional focus. And Nideffer used this 4-spectrum model. So we have focus on 2 axes, an axis of broad and narrow, and then external and internal. And when we break this down, we can understand focus a little more. And then the end goal we want is a really smooth, productive efficiency in moving between those different quadrants and the different parts of those focus spectrums real efficiently. And this, for these guys at the Tour de France in the heat of the moment and the sprint finishes, this is happening pretty much automatically. But that doesn't mean it's not something that we still can't train, plan a little more deliberately and give some thought to improve our ability to focus, aim our attention when it matters most. And this is one of those things that's in our control. At the Tour de France, there's so much that's out of these riders' control in all competition performance environments. There's so much out of our control, but we can hone in on how we're aiming our attention and focusing as one of these areas. So as we break these quadrants down, if we kind of have broad focus on the top and narrow focus on the bottom, and then external focus on one side, internal focus on the other. If we have broad external, we think of this as a assess. So we're assessing what's going on. We're kind of taking it all in. So it's the entire peloton, like how fast are we going? What's the environment we're in? Are we in a town? What's the weather like? Real broad. So we're just assessing the situation. And then we move over to broad internal, and that's sort of like an analyze. So now we're internal, but it's very broad. So how am I feeling? What's going on? What's my energy like? How's that tight back doing? Is there anything that I need to pay attention to? Sort of scanning my resources internally and how I'm doing. Also mentally, emotionally, am I agitated? Am I nervous? Am I excited? So that's that next broad internal quadrant of focus, analyze. And then from there, we go down to internal narrow. And this is like the prepare part of focus. So now we're internal, but we're real narrow and specific. So it's thinking like, how am I activating my muscles? How am I breathing? I need to prepare for this sprint. How am I going to give myself the best chance to do this sprint? I'm taking on a lot of oxygen deliberately, belly breathing with my diaphragm. And then moving over, the external narrow is the act. And that's when we're actually going. That is launching the sprint. That is when it's all happening. And it doesn't just have to be a sprint. It can be making the attack. It can be getting your teammate into position. It can be holding one side of the road. When we're external and narrow, we're really focused in. We're aiming our attention on a very specific, narrow external point. And this can also be even related to our form in terms of how we're moving our bodies, driving really forward in one externally narrowed, focused, purposeful direction and action. So it doesn't have to go in this order. So to perform well, our ability is really tied to aiming our attention and jumping around and knowing what is going to serve us in a particular moment. So as we reflect on any given moment or performance, we can say, where was I? Which part of this quadrant was I in? And then what could I have done to get myself to a more productive quadrant for a given circumstance? And this is something we can do out on the bike. This is something we can do as I was just doing on my mellow, relaxing cruise here after our studio session today. I was kind of taking in the environment, enjoying the trees. And then I was kind of thinking like, oh yeah, real broadly internally, my body's pretty tired. And then I'm thinking like, okay, more narrow internal. All right, I'm going to focus on just keeping my shoulders relaxed, really just relaxing my shoulders, Brent. And then narrow external, maybe I'm gonna jump up and attack for a little sprint. Probably not, but, you get the point. So, focus, and Nideffer's model of attentional focus, a really helpful tool when we break and understand focus down. So when the director yells, "Focus, guys," we actually understand what goes into that and how we can improve our ability to do that.